Greetings, friends. It's Zagar Sirius here today with my final argument for Starseed Awakening, part 3 of a series. The first two parts I posted last week. I want to just recap those really quickly here. The first one was a philosophical argument for reincarnation. And again, I want to reiterate that I did not create that argument. It's something that probably goes back many, many years. It was probably invented by either a Hindu or Buddhist. But it's a very compelling argument for reincarnation. And basically, it goes something like this. Your soul is energy. Energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. And therefore, your soul never dies. You live forever. Your soul is immortal. So that was basically, again, a philosophical argument probably created by a Buddhist or a Hindu. And I heard it probably like 15 years ago for the first time. But I just recapped it and kind of like put it into my own words and added some extra thoughts to it. So that was my first post last week. And then part 2 of the argument, my second post last week, had to do a lot with Frank Drake, who was the founder of SETI. And Frank Drake in 1961 came up with a mathematical proof known as Drake's equation, which basically proved that there are at least 100,000 intelligent civilizations here in the Milky Way galaxy alone. Okay, that's a lot. 100,000 right here in our galaxy. Never mind the whole universe. So that was Frank Drake again. He was the founder of SETI, 1961. He came up with that equation, and you can't argue with math, right? If there was ever a universal language, throughout the entire universe, one language, it would be mathematics, right? Because 1 + 1 = 2, no matter what planet you're from. So again, that was Frank Drake, and then another mathematician named Amel Azir. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. He wrote a book called Probability 1, and he took Drake's equation and he expanded it to the rest of the universe. So he went beyond the Milky Way galaxy, and included all the known galaxies that astronomers know of, and he came up with a conclusion, basically again proved by math, that the probability that life exists elsewhere besides here on Earth is 100%. Okay, so those are the first two premises of my argument. My argument relies heavily on other people's work. And to recap again what a philosophical argument is, if you have two statements that are true and then a third statement which logically follows from the other two statements, then the third statement must also be true. So the only thing really where my argument might, where people might find fault with it is there's one argument embedded in another argument. So again, the argument for reincarnation that I didn't come up with, that somebody else came up with a long time ago, that's the first premise to my argument, and then my argument follows from that. Again, I'm just going to show you here. Actually, I got it written out on a blackboard. So there it is. Premise 1 is that Buddhist argument that I mentioned, that the soul is energy, cannot be destroyed, therefore it's immortal. Only gets transformed. And then part 2, Drake's equation, and Amil Azir, who extended that equation into the rest of the universe and said that there's a 100% probability that life exists elsewhere. And then the third conclusion from that is that the third statement is that we are all starseeds. You'll notice I capitalized all. Okay, for those of you who've never heard of Starseed Awakening, it's basically you haven't always been human. Again, the soul is immortal. You've lived many, many lifetimes. The human race is only approximately 100,000 years old, Homo sapiens. So if you go back before that, if your soul's been around longer than that, you've been something else other than human before. And that's what Starseed is all about. Being a starseed, it's an amazing thing. It's quite a journey. And there's people in Hollywood talking about it. People like Russell Brand, Woody Harrelson, Jim Carrey, they're all starseeds. And sometimes people see them on talk shows and don't understand what they're saying, and they think, wow, they're crazy. They're not crazy. Okay, this is perfectly rational thought here. You can be a spiritual person, and you can also have a very scientific mind at the same time. So like when you get into this stuff, again, Drake's equation is math, and again, math is a universal language. You can't argue with math. You can argue with the other two parts all you want. But math is pretty strong, okay? ETs exist. They are real, and they're out there. You know, there's been tons and tons of UFO sightings. Lots of people have seen them. I personally haven't. Wish I had. But my grandmother had. And, you know, lots of other people have. They can't all be hallucinations or hoaxes, okay? There is definitely something going on. There is another intelligence beside us. And again, reincarnation, again, it's a very compelling argument. If you really believe that the soul is energy, and you look at my previous video about that and understand where I'm coming from with that, you can't deny these two truths, okay? It took me a long time to come to the conclusion. The most shocking part for me personally is that it took me 45 years to realize this. I'm a Syrian starseed. I come from Sirius originally, my first incarnation, not this one, obviously. But there's many other types. There's Andromedans, Pleiadians, Arcturians, Lepians, Lyrians. There's all different kinds. Again, 100,000 civilizations, according to Frank Drake's equation, right here in the Milky Way. That's a lot of beings out there besides us. So to think that we are alone in the universe, I would say that's more irrational than to believe that there's life out there, intelligent life out there. We can't be the only ones. So again, it's a very rational belief. It's not crazy. And I guess that's all I wanted to say. That's my argument, and I hope it holds. Peace, everyone.